included are concerned about.
We had your colleague, Congressman Ryan, on in the first segment, and we talked about the nation's debt ceiling. And what do you think happens if we don't have a deal by August 2nd?
We better have a deal. I think that's what the American people demand. I mean, the economy is fragile enough that something like this could tip it over again, and we can ill afford that. Just when we're starting to see some trends of economic growth and job creation, we need more of that right now. But this is all about the United States of America paying our bills, maintaining our obligations. If we don't do that, bond market collapses, and the financial crisis that will ensue will make the Great Recession that we're emerging from right now look like a picnic. And we've got to figure out a way to come together and strike some longer-term deficit reduction deal. There's no question these budget deficits are large and they're unsustainable. But there is common ground in areas of spending reductions that we can go to. But I think we have to be realistic about the revenue side, too. Revenue is at a 55-year low right now as a nation. The rates are at the lowest time since President Truman's administration, even though we have an aging population. And the bipartisan commissions that have looked at this and come out with recommendations, I think have provided a decent blueprint, a template for us to move forward on.
Congressman Ryan says the problem isn't we tax too much, it's we spend too much. The taxes are already high enough. Why would you want to increase taxes, given the fragile nature of the economy?
Listen, with all due respect to Paul, and he's a friend of mine, but when we've got large oil companies sitting on record profits, getting $40 billion worth of tax breaks over the next 10 years, and yet his budget is asking seniors to double their out-of-pocket expenses for the health care that they desperately need, I think our priorities are a little bit out of whack. Or that the wealthiest 2% are paying an effective tax rate of just 17% in this nation, which is lower than what most working families pay in Wisconsin. I think we can do a little better job of burden sharing when it comes to these budget decisions. So the idea that that should be completely off the table for consideration. But also defense cuts. I mean, we're in desperate need of tightening up the defense budget so we get a better bang for the buck. That too is another large item that they're taking off the table for consideration, and that's just unrealistic if we're going to have a shared sacrifice concept when it comes to these deficits.
We hear these predictions of calamity, an economic disaster, catastrophe, if there is no deal. Ron Johnson said on this program that he believes President Obama is using scare tactics with the American public. Are you guys trying to scare the public into the kind of deal that you want?
No, Mike. Senator Johnson's just wrong on this front. When Treasury comes back and says, August 2nd is a real date, and if we don't meet that, then the bond market is going to collapse. I think they are being realistic in what we're facing right now. We're the only nation in the world that puts ourselves through this process about a debt ceiling. But it's also, I would submit, unconstitutional for us to default on our obligations. Under the 14th Amendment, the full faith and credit of the United States must be adhered to. And that has been a financial stabilizing force throughout the globe for ages. We take that away, and our bond rating goes down, interest rates skyrocket. That is a recipe for economic calamity. So I don't think they're overstating the case. You just have to listen to a lot of the institutional investors and what they're telling us, and they're saying the exact same thing. So with all due respect with Senator Johnson, I think what he's saying is very dangerous to try to convince more of his colleagues that, what's the big deal? We'll just let this date slide, and the consequences won't be that bad.
Wisconsin Congressman Ron Kine, we appreciate your time. Good to have you on the program.
Thanks,
again.
Mike.